Thank you everyone for joining us today on a very relevant topic for us. Basically, when we talk about mental health and wellness at workplace, a lot of things came out, and during my discussion with my esteemed fellow panelist, we also have our own discussion to what's the definition and things like that. So in the next 30-40 minutes, we'd like to share something. I'm so honored and glad to be with the team members here. So just to, I like to give couple of statistics. And this came out in a survey by Deloitte after pandemic. 80% people who work in our workplaces have mental health issues. 80%. Generally, we think mental health is something which we don't want to talk about, right? It's our awareness and acceptance are big issues. But even for me, it was a surprise, though, coming from the same industry. I was in corporate, now I am running as a founder this company called Listen. Second thing is, just to give, and there are HR professionals here and there, and as I said, like I was in corporate before that, the loss was pegged to be $14 billion. $14 billion on an annual basis. And I'm talking about India, I'm not putting any WHO numbers and things, because if I go by the WHO numbers, there is going to be a $1 trillion loss because of the mental health issues in this decade, right? And we all want to be to a $5 trillion economy, why not? And so with that, I like to open this to our fellow panelists. So my first question is to Rupali. So Rupali Rane is head of HR for Nova IVF. They run an immensely great mental health support to their infertility clients. I know by understanding a little bit more Nova, they are the leader of it. But I am going to ask you a question more on the workplace. What are, according to you, are the biggest issues or certain 4 or 5 major issues that people face in workplace? You handle HR as well as you're part of infertility company.
We typically talk about depression, but what is depression is something which becomes very difficult. Certain terms are generally just used by people, right? What is very, very important is to start seeing those signs. And as managers, we feel what I don't know, I don't observe, right? That awareness is extremely critical. Say, for example, a basic thing like somebody is missing on the grooming standards, right? Somebody who has been well dressed, but suddenly you see that shabbiness coming in. Probably as HR, we always point out, today is Thursday, boss, it's not Friday, right? Though it seems like a small thing, but at the same time, somewhere something is going wrong. And of course, we being in an infertility business, it's very clear that for us, it's like, we deal with so much stress. Like, we go through a lot of pain of people. Simple things like somebody who has been very jovial, suddenly not meeting with people, coming at 9 o'clock, clocking in 8.5 hours and moving out. A cafeteria talk changing, people generally connect over there. And if suddenly that goes down, 2 things. One is individual, other one is my work environment changing? If there is a leadership change, I have to be there, running my personal diagnosis to find out, is there a mood of the unit that is changed, which I need to observe due to the change in the leadership style? And are we weaving in everybody with that family norm? Because what we feel is when we deal with infertility, unless we are a family, we cannot propose a family. Right? So it's one thing to call it job, work friends, colleagues. No, it's more like family. So the moment we welcome somebody, we said, welcome to Nova family. Right. Because unless I'm not the family, I will not be able to create a family. And these are certain small clues, because the psychological terms are multiple, but these are certain clues that we pick up. And of course, infertility journey is not new for us. So we also give that extension of hand to our own employees also. Other than that, I feel somewhere, approach towards the leader. I'll give you a very funny example. If the retaliation stops from the employee side, that's not necessarily a good sign. We look at it, it's a bad sign, because you will complain only if you see there is a solution coming. you will not complain otherwise. So these are the certain clues that we pick up on the work floor, and I feel all of us go through that. But as HR professionals, and many of my colleagues are over here, I personally feel we need to be a little more conscious about it. Believe me, we are under tremendous stress. But at the same time, if we don't pick up those clues, we lose out on good employees, whether good or bad. Employee is an employee, it's a human. Unless and until we don't look at it that way, we will not be able to. So the biggest thing I think one should talk about is to the managers, because they are in very close knit. So these are certain signs that I picked up from my experience. So they're not written anywhere, but I felt it was worth mentioning it.
Absolutely, Rupali. And I think HR people definitely need a lot of support. They are also employees, right? Isn't it? And trust me, though we run this mental health startup, and even my 25 to 30% time goes on people issues. Having said that, I like to move to Mansi Mahajan. She's a well-known yoga teacher, run House of Kapali, a wellness center which is also pretty well recognized. So my question to you is that what are the key pillars of mental well-being, right? And especially in the scope of workplace, and I'll come to the scope of workplace also. There are some interesting panelists who want to share that. What according to you are those key pillars, and especially in the case of workplace, you want to share with all of us?
Thank you so much, Krishnaji. It's really wonderful to be here, and thank you all of you for lending us your patient ears. So I want you to imagine this, right? You walk into a space that's generously lit, lights pouring in. You see a group of people chatting excitedly around a juice bar. You see another group of people heading upstairs into a lawn on a terrace for their yoga class. What does it seem like? What is this? A health club? Or a yoga studio? Yes? No, we're talking about reclaiming the workspace and the organizations that we work in as this. And like you asked, I feel like, with so much work that we've done with corporates, really infusing a sense of wellness at that personal level to the individuals, I feel like there are 3 core pillars. And these are the 3 R's. So the first R is, you talked about people. It's relationships. And relationships are really all about communication and connection. It's not really, communication is not always about talking. There was a study done saying that we're actually the worst listeners. As a generation of people, we're terrible listeners. So more often than not, communication is actually about making yourself available to listen. And also to, creating an ambiance in an organization, in a workplace, be it a hospital, be it a fertility clinic, a school, or a startup, whatever it may be. This is the heart of it. The people are the heart of it, right? So that's why, creating a green heart is really the foundation of it all. The second R is recognition. We cannot hope to create rewarding places to work without rewarding the people that work there and inspiring them to step into greatness. And this is where I feel like the essence, the challenge comes in, because we have created workplaces and organizations that sort of stem out, and the foundation is from an extrinsic motivational space, which means that I'm looking at outside factors to derive motivation for me. For me to step into greatness, I'm going to need the next paycheck or the next promotion. No, but this is really this is the essence of what I believe is the core of it, that it needs to be intrinsic. And for us to step into greatness, to go into that peak performance, what I call the no return, the point of no return, that needs to be coming from an intrinsic place of motivation, where I'm deeply situated within myself. You're yeah, you're deeply centered. And that's where all of that yoga and mindfulness that we've done all day comes in, right? And finally, the last R is resource. So whenever we talk about well-being at the workplace, whenever we talk about wellness programs at the workplace, you know, they need to be backed by science. We're constantly talking about stress at the workplace, all of that, right? We feel like stress is a consequence. It's what we do because we spend most of our lives at work. But I feel like stress is actually a culture. And this is the culture we have to kind of reverse into a culture of well-being and a culture of, you know, better yet, holistic, wholesome well-being, where we're all held together. You said family, so beautiful, right? Like, we're all connected in this, you know, like, that's what they say, the trees in a forest, they're all deeply connected at their roots. And we have to really, you know, Anupama talked about the Genome Project. You will resonate. We're all connected. We're all coming from that unified source. So that sense of secularity and universality needs to be embraced now. And all of that originates here and now. The question I want to ask you is that, are you present? Are you available? Are you available in this moment? Because magic happens here and now. It doesn't happen yesterday. It didn't happen 10 minutes ago. It's not going to happen tomorrow. It's happening now. So the only thing you have to do, whether it's a workplace, whether you as an individual, whether you're walking on the street, whether you're in a beautiful conference room, are you available for magic to unravel for you? Because it's there. You're all magical beings.
Yeah, no, I think I will utilize this. So I'd like to move to Vedika now. And Vedika is the founder of Kangaroo Minds, and she has an earlier company as well, and she is working on increasing the awareness, which is one of the bigger issues, especially in this country. As per some government estimates, 80% of the people who have mental health issues are unaware about it. Now, taking forward what Mansi was talking about, listening, right, as a part of communication, the first R of relationship, right, and the resources. So would like to listen to you. And one interesting thing we talked about, like, you know, workplace, somebody's coming from a wellness retreat, somebody is running an infertility company. So workplace is also very diverse, right? And it has different settings. It could be urban, it could be rural, it could be small, it could be big, it could be a corporate, it could be on an entrepreneurial setup. So would like to know from you, what do you understand by this, and what the settings of this workplace plays a role in the wellness aspect?
So I think that's a really interesting question, because a lot of times when we think workplaces, we think corporate India, we start thinking of metros and MNCs. And we forget that a large population of India resides, you know, within rural parts of this country or not in metro cities. So when we look at workplaces, and especially from a wellness perspective and a mental health perspective, one thing we don't talk about enough is, you know, toxic workplaces and the lack of safe spaces and the lack of inclusivity within workplaces. So of late, we have a lot of conversations happening around, you know, the diversity agenda and inclusivity within workplaces. But when we look at inclusivity from a wellness perspective, I think it's very important to understand that no matter where you come from, inclusivity will look differently. So having worked within, you know, both urban and rural spaces within a family business, I think if we start breaking down what does inclusivity mean, you'll see it means very different things to very different people. And that comes back to the whole mental health aspect that, you know, there's no one size fits all. So each organization, when they look at wellness, when they look at, you know, building safe spaces, inclusivity, it's going to be a very, very different approach. So I'll give you an example. In a metro like Mumbai or Delhi, we can talk about inclusivity in the sense of, you know, do we have representation for LGBTQI communities within our workplaces? But start going into family businesses, you'll see, are women being represented? And do women have a voice within family businesses? So that's inclusivity within a family business. You start moving to a rural part of India, you'll start seeing caste, or you may not see women at all in their workplaces. So, you know, just looking and being more aware of what inclusivity looks like, what safe spaces look like, I think that's where the main challenge comes in for like different workplace settings.
No, I think that's so true. Sometimes for us, and you are very well said, right? When we talk about workplace, the corporate become the hegemony where we want to solve the problem, but it will vary a lot. So, you are right. I've seen some family businesses. I myself come from a smaller town in Western UP, and how they operate is very, very different the way I operated when I was working in other places. Now, actually moving a little bit on the technicality of it with Decency Rajput. She's a consultant clinical psychologist. So, would good to know from you that, and especially you are also the director for academics and clinical services, right, at SciMed Foundation. What is the neurodiversity at workplace means? Is this something similar that what Vedika was talking about, or it is more technical? Would be good to know.
Good question, because neurodiversity otherwise is seen as a disability. Okay. It is very similar to what Vedika is talking about in terms of inclusivity. We have heard about gender, we have heard about sexual identities, we've heard about everything else, but we forgot about our own mental abilities. Now, as you said, there are a lot of HRs over here, there are a lot of managers over here, everybody's from different fields. All of you think of one person who's really eccentric. I'm sure you might know that person in your office, in your workspace, who's a little different, whose approach to any problem is a little different, who might not be very, so-called normal, right? Might not be very social, or maybe very over-talkative, might say inappropriate things at times, but then you still like them because they're your, colleague and everything. That is what neurodiversity actually looks like. But what we really think about neurodiversity, or when I say neurodiversity, let me simplify it a little bit. So we're talking about people with autism, people with ADHD, people with ADD, as well as dyslexia and many others, right? Even social anxiety and others. Understand that till now, we think कि autism or dyslexia or ADHD or ADD is just a disability, right? We're supposed to give a medication for ADD or ADHD and, they'll start functioning normally. But what about the difference in the neurobiology of the brain? Neurodiversity is nothing, but imagine if brains were two kinds. One that could stand in line and the other that couldn't. That's all the difference is. That is all. One set of line that will go in a queue and the other set of line that will go zigzag all throughout, but will reach the point and might actually touch different spaces in the wild. Now, why I'm talking about neurodiversity in workplaces is that you HR and you managers are missing out on a lot of talent while thinking that, okay, this might be a disability. Because these people don't test very well on your interviews. They might not have very good social skills. They might not appear very confident or way too confident, or way too smug or way too direct. In fact, you'll see the tech companies like Microsoft and even IBM and others who have actually assigned quota to neurodiversity, not because, all right, we have to do this, but because that is where their actual problem solvers come from. We are looking at that area of people who think out of the box, right? Who don't walk in a queue, who cannot walk in a queue, and that is their superpower. Anybody with dyslexia will have a different perception, a different understanding of a simple space, of a simple 3D space. Meet a person with dyslexia and ask them to define maps to you, and you'll be amazed from the difference how you'll think of it and how they'll think of it. They can probably map the whole city for you, just like that, in 3D, literally. Meet a person with ADD or ADHD and ask them a question, or just ask for a solution for a very random, very small thing, and you'll find some very brilliant ideas. As we have known, people with autism, people with Asperger's, the ability to do tasks that we may find very, very, very monotonous or very hectic or very irritating, they love doing those and excel at them. So in a nutshell, what I'm trying to say is we need to look into our hiring practices. We need to look into building spaces like even Vedika mentioned. When we talk about inclusivity, we forget that making a space that is inclusive is very, very important. We can train the managers how to deal with them. We can actually do a lot more just to create that space. And once you have that space, you'll realize that you'll save a lot more in your expenses than you will in training. Or by not solving those problems that were not solved because nobody actually thought out of the box, or nobody actually took the impulsive decision of taking the risk, or said, okay, fine, it'll be done somehow. So that is what is actually neurodiversity. And if there are any questions, you can obviously throw it at.
No, thank you very much. I think personally for me also, knowing this difference with neurodiversity, and when I'll go back and share with my team what's a wonderful example you have talked about, people walking in the queue and not. And there is so much beauty in spontaneity anyway. So with that, I'll move to my friend here, Dr. Siddharth. From a psychologist to a psychiatrist, at least he can write some drugs for me if I need. And he's also a chief operations officer at Sai Mantra Foundation and mental health specialist at World Health Partners. So during our discussion, one thing very interesting came out with him, and I like to ask that. So we talked all about starting from Rupali and ending at decency, like, you know, the diversity, the different things we are seeing. What's your take on, you know, what is going on in the HR world, the business world, not just HR, right? On all the initiatives that we do around that, and you introduced me to a term called wellness washing. I'll not elaborate on it, I'll give it the floor to you.
Thank you.
So how you want to take it forward, it's up to you.
Thank you. It's a very close to heart topic. I'm just going to loop in from what Decency said. So dyslexia is a disease, or rather a neurodiversity area where you cannot read words properly or spell them properly. I am dyslexic. When I was a kid, I used to think that the disease is called Sidlexia and it's named after me because I'm called Siddharth. Right? I spent the longest of time thinking that. But the thing is that even with my Sidlexia, I'm here. I'm doing things in my life, and I'm trying to make sure that, you know, all of us who are working in this area are able to provide the same kind of support that I got. The challenge with safe spaces in offices is, you know, like I discussed with Dr. Singh, is that I think that there's a lot of lip service to the whole mental health and neurodiversity thing when it comes to corporate spaces. There was this talk about environmental activism where back in the 70s, I don't remember the writer, but they came up with a term called greenwashing. Greenwashing was basically that a hotel in Fiji was building a lot of bungalows, but they said that, please use your towels again. This helps us save detergent attack or trauma to the environment and to the reefs. You build 20 bungalows and you save with one towel? That's not how it works. Unfortunately, actually fortunately, the fact that mental health is getting attention, but unfortunately that there is a lot of attention because for many people, mental health is an area where you have a lot more data. A lot more data to the point where, you know, we have a lot of fancy titles, right? You have a CEO, you have a COO. There are a lot of vowels in there. I was having this discussion with colleagues, and Decency was involved in it too. There is something called, you know, very soon there's probably going to be something called the CWWO we were talking about, Chief Wellness Washing Officer. Or Chief Wellness Washer, let's make it simple, all consonants, no vowels, right? Now, the challenge is going to be that instead of HR doing the usual rangoli and cake cutting practices, there is going to be a seminar on layoffs. Somebody reached out to me to do a layoff counseling seminar for one day. You throw two people out with a young family and then you want them to be counseled as to, oh, it's okay, move on. It's all in your head. No, I've got a home loan to pay and my child's fees. It's not in my head. It's very physical. It's in the real world. Currently, the estimates state that investments in mental health ventures and startups is somewhere around 880 million US dollars and expected to hit $1.5 billion a year over the next 4 to 5 years. But you have to realize somewhere that there needs to be an input from somebody who is a professional in the field and somebody who is also, who has lived the challenge. I was recently at a workplace where there's a lot of talk about, we're doing a lot of mental health work in the community, reaching out to rural areas, but then one colleague found the blog of another colleague where this person talked about their bipolar disorder and turned it into a gossip topic at the water cooler. Pata hai, isko bipolar disorder hai. That's why he behaves crazy all the time. We are unfortunately at a state where the CWW or the chief wellness washer, instead of the Rangoli, you've got your seminars, you've got your webinars, you've got your let's talk about suicide prevention. You even have people coming in and saying, hey, we're not going to be able to pay you your salaries, but how about we link you up to Motilal Oswal, who's going to teach you how to invest your money? And that can be a bit of a challenge because, you're attacking at the heart of what is everybody's functional foundation. So as we go forward, we really need to think about whether these initiatives are just lip service, if we actually care. Because you can't have a bunch of mental health or wellness professionals try and figure this out. It's a battle. It's a war that needs to be fought. I can walk in with anxiety in the morning, and that's okay. I have Sidlexia, that's okay. Somebody else has ADHD, that's okay. And we all are better for our experiences and stronger for our experiences. Not a point of conversation to be joked about in hushed tones at the water cooler. Oh, this person can't even spell dyslexia correctly. I'm sorry, but like Decency said, that's our superpower. Each and every one of us who suffers from something, and we don't need the wellness washing. So we need to look into making a little bit of effort to try and see if we can make these spaces actually mental health friendly and not turn it into a mental illness debate.
Thank you, Siddharth. I think this is quite an eye-opener because we do tend to do things sometimes for the sake of it. I think it's important that we find the essence of why we are doing it. And as we normalize the conversations around mental health, right? People would be aware about bipolar, maybe as you are aware about a broken limb on the other day, right? And you generate sympathy that time. But I think that's the journey these kind of conclaves would help us in covering. But important point which you have put together, right? Like this, how we actually, as you ended on, how we can make it mental health friendly, and I'll come back to Rupali again, right? There are things which are prescribed by ILO, which are prescribed by WHO, and would love to know more about it. Like, what are the concrete steps from there we can take it, especially in our workplaces?
So, World Health Organization has released a paper in somewhere around September 22. When they haven't given a law or something that you have to implement, it is called as guideline. In the guideline, the biggest thing is about awareness. So, it's a huge paper. So if I have to brief it in few steps, one is you need to, first of all, accept that there are, mental health issues at the workplace. And how do you accept it? Of course, the 70% of the recommendations are around training when it comes to World Health Organization. One of the other laws that I remember, when I was in US, we used to get that 12 weeks leave for postpartum depression for the mothers who have delivered, right? Now they're recommending the similar leave for the employees who are detected with such kind of issues. So it's a 12 weeks leave that they're recommending in that guideline. And most of their efforts are around training people, building awareness, making sure people are talking, and also, let's say, when someone wins, we put it on a, you mentioned about reward and recognition. we also used to run a board which says, and this was in my earlier organization, saying that how much usage one is doing of that facility. We used to call that facility as Confidante. And Confidante was a third, the companies like yours who would come and join hands with us, where your identity is not revealed, of course. Only the company knows about it. And minimum 2 consultations from our side. And if the real issue is detected, then we used to work along with the person until they come out of it, or we used to offer those, I must say that we could avoid almost 3 suicide cases during that time. Someone lost the fiance, someone lost the loved one, many things used to happen, and Confidante used to help them. Such kind of mechanisms, if you have in the company, many times, believe me, in big IT companies, they're just the initiatives looped in over there, but people don't use it. So what we started doing is, we used to celebrate the usage of Confidante and used to put it on the main board saying that today the usage has gone up. Rather than saying that, oh, it's going to be my cost, we really started liking it. And we saw a whole lot of difference, and especially in the generation that is coming in, and believe me, who are the people who used to use it? Of course, the women in childbearing age, and other ones who are using it are the freshers. So freshers used to use the Confidante services big time for, their mental distress. And seriously speaking, as of course we are a different generation now, when I see the freshers coming in, believe me, the amount of depression detected so early in life without having the adversity in the childhood is so huge that even the management trainees are going through those services. So I feel that is the kind of a recommendation WHO is giving to ensure one is accept, celebrate the usage, make sure that you're talking about it, conduct a huge round of training, and the biggest thrust is on managers training across the spectrum to ensure, because day to day we keep talking to them and we don't even understand what exactly is happening. We are only giving to-dos to them. Are we actually spending that time? We use a lot of time, and this is the season to talk about it. I think the appraisal season is around the corner. Hate the season, especially because HR fraternity cannot fall sick between these 3 months. Absolutely, among these 3-4 months, starting from April to June, we cannot be taking leaves also, because it's all over. But having said that, what we do is we put more thrust on training the managers as to what to do, starting from where to sit, how much time. I also went one step ahead, creating a icebreaker document, because it's so difficult. Believe me, it's one thing to preach others, it's other thing to actually doing the same thing with your team members. I run a team of around 40-50 individuals. It's extremely difficult to sit across, and especially when recently something has gone wrong. So there are multiple syndromes that we all go through. Recently what happened will color our entire judgment at the end of the year. So why it is important, what are the different biases that we go through as an individual? Unless I'm aware, I will end up doing what is wrong, because whatever said and done, those 20 to 30 minutes that I invest in your discussion is for the entire year. And it's extremely important to understand that. And that is something I feel across the industry we can follow, because most of the time we as individuals don't know where we go wrong. When I'm aware of it, I'm cautious of it, and accordingly I build it. So that's as far as the WHO guideline, not that we are following entire thing. It's a guideline, but I would urge all of you to go back and look at that document, because it helps us to understand where we need to intervene. Though you mentioned that 80% of them have issues, 18% of the current workforce is found out with significant double quote, you can call it under the disease category, and still coming to the work because they need to run the wheel. So if we are kind and empathetic towards it, it will help. And believe me, as I said, the family thing just worked for us, because whatever said and done, we are in a business of happiness, and we cannot lose sight of it. We cannot bring in our depressions into that, and that kind of helps us to move forward. Thank you.
No, thank you, Rupali. Achha, he was little anxious because I think the mic was not working, and I think that things keep on happening, right? You can plan, as I think man proposes, God disposes, right? So it's always true, right? Happened with me. My today in my Uber as well. And in my previous life, I actually was the GM of Mumbai for Uber. And my Uber cancelled on me, so things can happen. Uber disposes, right? That's why I was a little late. Having said that, now I would like to introduce Mrs. Renu Goyal. She does a tremendously good work with children. I have 2 of them, and I know how important is the mental health support for, growing kids, especially in these times. Especially the pandemic has just passed on, and she runs a company called Kidicious, which means learning differently. So we talked a lot about diversity and things like that, and I think where Rupali ended is on about accepting and moving forward. So as we are moving towards the latter part of our discussion, would like to know, especially from you, what kind of things teachers can do. And tying to what Vedika and Decency was talking about, schools, education institutions are a huge workplaces, huge, right? I think if I talk about the physical foot space, I think they are just second to the IT companies, and which they have moved a lot of WFH, right, work from home. So with that in mind, I would like to know how specifically the stress management techniques for teachers.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. So before starting, can I know who all have been to parent-teacher meeting with their kids? I hope everyone. So have you seen teacher over there at 8 a.m. in the morning? How they are looking? Good. They are presentable. Right. They are smiling. You can see, colorful boards over there in the classroom. Can you just, you had just a minute, what all they have done to complete all this work? Lot of work. Lot of, back-end work they have already done. I have worked with many schools in Delhi NCR, and I have interviewed almost 100 teachers over there. And I asked them, why did you choose this profession? And out of 100 teachers, they said, out of 90 teachers said they came by, not by choice, by chance they came there. So I was completely shocked after getting that answer. They have not come by choice, they have come by chance. So what are the chances? Maybe their family members said that it's a half-day job, so you can join it. You are not doing anything, you can be a teacher, you do a B.Ed and go and teach there. And in that ways, you can see your children. And even there are many schools in Delhi, I don't know about others, who give free education to the teachers' kids. So they join the teaching profession to just so get the free education and all that. But, I mean, what is it a half-day job? Do you think it's a half-day job? No. It's not a half-day job. You could see a teacher coming back from the school at 3 p.m. She has gone at 7 a.m. and she's coming back at 3 p.m. But it's not a half-day job. She's still working at home. She's still seeing her kids there. She's still texting to the parents. She's still making the LPs and ASMs till the 11:30 in the evening. So she's still working. It's not at all a half-day job. And one and foremost thing, I mean, maybe most of us are from the HR background or corporates. You must be getting some time for lunch break, right? You chit-chat with your friends at that time. You just go for a walk for 15 minutes there. But for the teacher, it's not like that. She has to sit with the students to have her lunch. She's again doing her duty. She's again seeing the discipline in the class. She's again seeing the behavior issues in the class. And she's responsible for everything, not only from the teachers. So it's again, it's very, very neglected area. We could see the, many organizations working for doctors who are having mental health issues. We are seeing so many organizations working for the corporates, but we are not seeing any organization working for the teachers' mental health. But it's definitely, it's a requirement of the day. So for the stress management techniques, I took few sessions with teachers earlier about this, on the stress management, and they said, ma'am, stress management, at least we need time for that. we need time. How could we do? You are talking about the meditation, you are talking about the, relaxation technique, you are talking about the hobbies, which we usually talk, है ना? So, but where is the time? At 5:30 a.m. we see our phone and we see the WhatsApp messages coming from the school authorities that today you have to go in this bus duty, today you have to see all these things, you have to give us LP by 1:30 p.m. And at the midnight, 11:30, parents are calling us, parents are messaging us, ki ma'am, what to do next and all that, and we need to give the answers because we don't have any other option. Otherwise, we would be in a difficult situation. So where is the time? And in fact, with this, all these school duties they are seeing, because most of the teachers are females, so they are seeing their children, they are seeing their in-laws as well and everything as like other working women. So obviously, if we don't have time for the stress management, so what we needs to do at that time? We need few minutes for ourselves at that time. When you go to the washroom, you just see the mirror and smile to yourself. That's all we can do. You can just sing when you are going into the washroom, because it's not allowed for the teachers to sing in the school because it's a most disciplined area. You can't sing there. So you can just go to the washroom and sing for yourself. And what else? You can just do some heartfulness activities, mindfulness activities at that time when you are in your staff room. So you just sit and take a 1 minute break and just focus on your heart for 1 minute, and you leave everything. I just interviewed one of the teachers maybe a couple of days back, and I asked her, what is your stress management activity? Then she said, I'll take my me time. What is me time for yours? I just keep everything aside on Saturday night. I don't worry about my ALPs and ASMs and everything. I just keep it aside and I just watch Netflix and some comedy videos. That's it. So this is my me time, and I don't want anyone to interfere in that me time. So these all things, maybe we don't have time for the meditation or relaxation or for hobby for 15 minutes, half an hour, 1 hour, but we can take one minute in between our break time and do this.
Thank you. I think it's very neglected sometime, the credit that we give, right? And I remember a very old दोहा, गुरु गोविंद दोहू खड़े किसके लागू पाएं, बलिहारी गुरु आपने गोविंद दियो मिलाए, right? So it's more about, the teacher is even supreme to the God, right? So that's, I think somewhere we lost that in between. Now I'll come to both Vedika and Decency. As she talked about, how you can build better workspaces for teachers, right? You talked about neurodiversity, and anyone of you can pick it up and start sharing your views. And you talk about diversity. So essentially, how we can truly make the spaces safe as per the diversity defined by you, and specifically even a learning for me in terms of the neurodiversity piece, right? So would be happy to hear from both of you.
It's very easy actually, very, very easy.
Lovely. I think the easy thing to an entrepreneur is let's get it done.
Something she said, listen, right? And something she said, talk.
That's the name of my company anyway, listen, so
Yeah.
it's done, half job done.
So, like, even she mentioned that, when we test people, and if I ask you all, how difficult is listening? How many of you can tell me even one topic before what we're discussing? Just even one. That difficult, listening is that difficult. There's this YouTube video, very famous YouTube video, we often use it in therapy, just to teach family members how to listen. So it's a very ready-made thing. It's called nail in the head. Any of you can Google it and see it, right? It is all about how you can only listen, and that is okay. There is no need of solution. There is no need of direction. There is no need of anything, but just validation and a yes, all right. That's it. It sounds easy when I say that, and not at all easy to do. So definitely look up the video. It's a fun one. And that is one thing you can use everywhere, from your relationships to your jobs, Your work as managers, your work as entrepreneurs, your work as leaders, everybody, just everybody. For everyone, for your children, for your partners, just everywhere. The reason I'm saying listen is because when you listen, you'll realize that not just neurodiversity, all of us are different. All of our needs are different. All of our motivations are different. When you as leaders will tap into that motivation, that is when you'll get the essence and the reality and even the beauty of what you're actually looking for. You're looking for a good worker, right? You're looking for a person who's gonna give you good results. You're looking for a person who's gonna solve a few problems for you, do some things that are really difficult and actually achieve something for your companies. Yes? Then listen. Then provide that space to that person who can actually do this for you. And it's easy. Like she said about training, right? That you're training your people to actually listen, ice-breaking modules and all of that. Yes, that easy. That's why I said it is very, very easy. It's in
Yeah, I
training,
think-
listening, and talking. Yes, it is the common sense. Because we're too scared, you know. We're too scared of change. We're too scared of difference. And as you must have noticed, the Sid Lexic man is pretty funny, right? So that is just a package deal with neurodiverse people. Being very funny and abrasive. Putting people at, you know,
No, I
uneasy
think now I have to
spaces.
listen to the organizers. They have shown me the time part. So would like people to move a little fast. So
Yeah, so I'm just going to throw a few lights around, like safe spaces in addition to what, Decency spoke about listening. And I think it was one of the conversations we were having in one of our training programs around active listening. And the best way to look at active listening is it's very different from just hearing someone. So active listening is essentially look at it as, when you listen from your heart. So you kind of try and pick up what are the emotions that are coming through. You listen with your eyes, so you pick up a lot of the cues, the non-verbal aspect of the entire communication. And finally, you listen with your ears, which is, the words that are being used, the tone in which that's being said. But coming back to, again, safe spaces within workspaces. So when it comes to safe spaces, I think the number one thing is to embrace inclusivity. And that inclusivity will look very different in different settings. And I think one thing I didn't touch upon earlier was sometimes we forget in this whole inclusivity, and we talk about workspaces, a lot of the focus comes on, the people from a working perspective. But looking at it from an entrepreneurship perspective, we forget about the employers. So we have to even keep in mind the employers, the startup founders, because this is a notion that, okay, if you have money or if you are running a startup, of course you're happy. What do you have to be sad about? So think about the people, the CXOs as well, because we feel that, no, they're sitting right on top. They have the most cushy jobs. They're the ones literally squeezing the life out of everyone at the bottom, but also sort of recognizing that mental well-being, mental health is across all levels. It doesn't just stop or start somewhere. And finally, in terms of safe spaces, I think 2023, we all have a lot of awareness about mental health, right? You'll go to a workspace, a lot of people can define depression, and they know basic what is depression, what is anxiety. But we don't talk about the other mental illnesses, and I'm sure, Sid, you would have seen it in terms of, let's say, eating disorders or panic attacks or psychosis, for instance. These are far less spoken about. But from awareness, I think we need to reach a stage of acceptance and then finally to action. So the action is where, your training programs, concrete steps, having those safe spaces where, suppose someone doesn't want to come into work because they're having a panic attack, they should feel safe enough to talk about the fact that, I can't come in because I'm having a panic attack. They shouldn't have to fake it by saying, I'm having a headache today and I can't make it to work. So that's what a safe space essentially would look like.
I'll take the action part of it, and just in short, to Renuji and Siddharth here, what could be the practical, in short, concrete steps that as an individual can take at the workplace for their own, mental and emotional wellness?
Okay, for that, can we have a minute and we do a small exercise right now? We can do at workplace. So you
Yeah, I
all
think
can,
we have a minute. We can do that. Yeah.
we all
60
can
seconds
sit
will not
straight.
move.
Just sit straight. put one hand on your chest, another on your tummy. Close your eyes. And just focus on your heart. Don't think of anything right now. Just focus on your heart. Okay, so that's it you can do while doing your work. Just for 30 seconds if you do, you just focus on your heart, you are at the present time. You are not thinking about anything about the past or the future. That's it you can do. That's a small exercise. If you are very busy in your life, you can't do the meditation, you can do it for 30 seconds after every 2 hours, and that would re-energize you.
Thank you, this was very helpful.
Dr. Goyal spoke from the perspective of the employee, and I seem to be on a HR and management bash. So I'm going to speak about that. It's a 9-to-5 job. Saturdays and Sundays are off. If you send an email at 4:55 on a Friday, do not expect a reply at 9:05 in the morning on Monday. It's as simple as that. Give them time, give them space. Don't harrow them. Don't harass them. It can be very simple. The person at the other end of the computer screen connected via the fancy networks that we have is a human being who has trials and tribulations just like you do. Everyone does. Be mindful of that. Right? 4:55 on a Friday is not going to get you a reply at 9:05 on a Monday. And if you think you deserve a reply, then you need to look at a lot of things in your own life. But that was too serious, so I'm just going to, when Dr. Goyal was making us do this exercise, I just realized that perhaps, this whole bashing thing is causing me to be anxious, so I'm going to end with a quick joke. How many mental health professionals does it take to change a light bulb or a person? Just one, but both the light bulb and the person need to want to change.
Wow.
Make that effort. All of you, make that effort.
No, I think that anybody can, but both the sides need to be ready for the change. And just last one from Mansi, any practical tips for the audience? We have talked a lot about workplace and something nice exercise by Renuji, but just from your side.
Sure. Okay, I don't need that. I'm going to get everybody to just stand up for a second. We'll take the last 30 seconds to just stand up, and we'll just do an embodied experience. So what I need you to do, and like Renu said so beautifully, you don't need an hour to meditate. And meditation doesn't take time, it gives you time. So I'm going to ask you of your 30 seconds, and this is what we're going to do. This is called the tapping exercise. You're going to take your right hand and start tapping your left hand with it. Present your left hand. Good. Clap. Plus circulation. Good. Move up. Keep moving up. Up. Okay. Armpits. This is where all your stress is. This is where. Yes. Give yourself a pat on the back. Good job, all of you. Chest. Can't hear you. Loosen up. That's the whole idea. Channel your ancestors. Good. Change hands. Woo! Yes. Back of the arm. Move up. Yes. Look at that. We're creating a beautiful rhythm. The other armpit. Yes. Remove all of that stuck energy. Back to the heart. Both the hands. Just get busy. Upper abdomen. Yes. How are we doing here? Making some. Okay, lower belly.
Let's make a lot of noise.
Find yourself a partner, or you can do this alone. Right leg. Right leg comes up, or you go down. It's one way or another. Left leg. Now you really need to find a partner. Your mind. Turn back.
Okay, that's your mind.
Yes. Give your partner a pat on the back all the way. Good. Places that they can't. Give them a little shampoo.
He has to return the favor, I think.
Turn. Quick. Guys, turn around. Hurry up. Awesome. And oh, wow. And release. Okay. Bring it in. Close your eyes. I want you to tune into the sensations in the length and breadth of you. Just make yourself available to whatever is happening, within or without. Take your right hand on the heart, you just did this. Left hand on the belly again. We're going to smile. This is the smile challenge. For the next 20 seconds, you're going to continue to smile, knowing that you're empowered and embodied. And I want you to receive it. It's available for you. Let's inhale together, smile. Everybody smile. Big smile. Let that smile get bigger and bigger all the way to your ears. Good. Let's inhale. Exhale out. Like you really mean it. Like this breath was going to save the world. Let's inhale together. Exhale it out with a ha sound. Let go of your hands. One more breath. Inhale. Release anything that no longer serves you. Open your eyes with a big smile. You're still smiling, right? Welcome back. Thank you so much. So what I was saying is that this is available for you. Like Rupa said, that you are available for you. You just have to receive it. It doesn't take more than 10 seconds for you to completely transform the alchemy of this moment or you. Right? You're a beautiful creation. You just have to tap into that. And thank you so much for being monkey see, monkey do.
Wonderful. Thanks a lot, Mansi. Thank you, really. I think we can definitely take out this minute any time of the day. Mohit, any questions allowed, or we are just going to say goodbye? Okay, that's fine. He is the boss. He runs the time here. And I've been on this position many times, so I understand how stressful it's for you. You can try a few of the things we did. You know?
Definitely. All right. So thank you very much, esteemed panelists. Please give them one more round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. And we would also like to present them with a small token of appreciation. Thank you.